Well, another day, another special midday bonus episode of the Morning Scoop. Please don't expect this every week, but this week's a little special with Oregon coming to town and a top 10 matchup on deck. So with so much interest in this matchup, I wanted to let you guys hear directly from Oregon offensive coordinator Joe Moorhead and defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter about their thoughts about the game. Moorhead was the offensive coordinator at Penn State during the Trace McSorley days before he went on to be the head coach at Mississippi State for a couple of years. So he knows the Buckeyes program a little bit. He was asked about the challenge of facing an Ohio State team with so many first-time starters and so many guys who rotated through at various points during the Week 1 game at Minnesota.
It's very challenging. Ohio State played the national championship last year. They're the defending Big Ten champ. The roster's littered with 4- and 5-star talent, and they're incredibly well coached across the board. So all of us a challenge. But Tyreek and Zach played a ton, as did the interior guys. The guys at the second level, the linebackers, are all relatively new. Have played a bunch of games on special teams, and Denzel's new, but the other guys on the back end, the 7 didn't play, but 41's. It's challenging in the sense that you haven't seen this combination of guys, play together. All 11 of them, you've seen them play in spurts. But not as a group. So I think that's probably the most challenging part of seeing those guys play all together as a unit.
Oregon's offensive line was pretty good at times against Fresno State. They weren't totally consistent throughout the game, but at times a reporter said, they were opening up holes big enough for him or for Joe Moorhead himself to run through. And Moorhead thought, maybe not quite that big.
Yeah, maybe you, not me. I don't know. Yeah, I think we, there were some things in the. I think we started fast. It came out of the gate strong. Had it hit, like Coach mentioned, hit a little bit of a lull in the second and third quarter, and then finished strong there in the fourth. I think a lot of the runs were, a block away from splitting for bigger yardage in the first three quarters. One thing schematically that we hadn't done in the first half is we went to split zone instead of just regular inside zone or counter. That was a halftime adjustment, and a lot of those runs were ones that CJ ended up splitting. So I think our line was, playing with good pad level. They're knocking guys off the ball, and the backs were running physically downhill and running through arm tackles. So I think that's what contributed to some of those successful run plays in the second half, particularly the fourth quarter.
The Ducks offense is more than just a one-man show, but when the game was on the line at against Fresno State, you kind of knew where they were going. That was CJ Verdell, their fourth-year running back. Not a big surprise. He was a 1,000-yard guy, both as a freshman and as a sophomore. Now in his fourth year, when they really need to win the game, it wasn't a big surprise to see CJ Verdell as the guy with the ball in his hands.
CJ and Travis both had very, very solid games. And, at the end of the day, my job as an offensive coordinator isn't to worry about style points or how it's done. There's one stat that matters, and that's, putting them in the left-hand column instead of the right-hand column. Now, ideally you'd like to be as balanced as you can, 50-50, and, create more explosive plays and limit some of the negative yardage things. But, at a certain point as a play caller, you got to, worry about what are we going to do to win this football game. And as you mentioned, in that fourth quarter, it was tied and we needed to drive down and get a score, and we were running the ball well. And, CJ and Travis are two guys that have done it at a very high level for a long time here. So, those are the guys we wanted to feed with the ball.
If you ask most Ohio State fans what they're most nervous about right now, I would guess that the answer for a lot of people would be the defensive backfield, and that potentially deep shots against that defensive backfield might be an area where Buckeye fans are feeling their team might be a little vulnerable on Saturday. Oregon did not take a ton of shots downfield last weekend. So knowing that Ohio State might be a little bit vulnerable there, is that something they think they might do more on Saturday?
Shots down the field?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we ended up throwing it, 25 times by attempt, but there were more calls that were scrambles,
right.
And had more run calls. Like I said, a lot of that is dictated, it's not 7-on-7 or flag, there's three components to the pass game, and that's protection, that's separation and running the route, and that's throwing the football and completing it. And I think we were, had some opportunities on some things down the field that we didn't connect on, got a couple pass interferences, but, certainly we want to be more balanced. We want to take more shots down the field, but some of the stuff that was occurring throughout the course of the game didn't dictate for us, to take as many as, and there's probably a little more than people thought, but, once again, I can't, worry about what people are thinking. It's saying you don't concern yourself with the opinions of people of whom you wouldn't accept their advice, particularly on the play calling part of it. But, we're going to try to continue to push the ball down the field when the opportunity arises, and we're capable of doing it. And that's something we want to do, be aggressive, taking shots down the field.
A win is a win in college football, especially in week one, but Oregon knows they did not play terrifically in every possible aspect of the game against Fresno State, and they only won by a touchdown. And Joe Moorhead said they know there are some areas that they definitely need to clean some things up before the Ohio State game.
Yeah, up front, sticking on blocks, make sure we're finishing, the integrity of the pocket, make sure we're continuing to maintain the depth and the width of the pocket so the quarterback can, step up and make a good decision. The running backs running hard and physical and through their pads like they did in the fourth quarter throughout the game. The receivers, being assignment correct, blocking well on the perimeter, and, catching the ball when they have the opportunity, and the quarterbacks making correct reads and delivering the ball with accuracy. So I'd say those are the things that we need to continually improve on. Consistency of execution, sustained for 4 quarters.
Moorhead has something of a unique view of college football. He has coached in the Big Ten, SEC, and Pac-12 over the last 5 years. And he shared his thoughts on how those 3 leagues are all a little different from each other.
They all have their own identities, I think. And I think they're all kind of unique. And, I say haven't been in the Big 12 or the ACC, but, I think it's I think the Pac-12 probably has the most parity from top to bottom. I'd say that's the one thing that stands out the most about being in the Pac-12. Obviously the SEC, presents a lot of challenging teams, and the Big Ten kind of has the identity of pounding the ball and playing great defense and things like that. Although they're Ohio State is an incredibly explosive team in a lot of different ways. So I'd say that the thing that separates the Pac-12 from the others from an identity standpoint is the parity of the leagues from top to bottom.
On the other side of the ball, defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter, he was a former head coach at Fresno State, if that name sounds familiar. He was asked about Justin Flo. Flo is a 5-star prospect, former top 10 overall player in the class of 2020, a linebacker out of California who was a major scorer in recruiting for the Ducks in 2020. Linebacker Drew Mathis is out for Saturday. That means that Justin Flo is going to be on the field a lot more than they had probably been planning on. He was obviously an elite recruit, but he's still sort of coming along in his development. DeRuyter said he's probably going to be a big part of this weekend's game.
Well, Justin, kind of showed on Saturday who he is. He's a guy that's a very explosive football player, plays with a ton of passion. He's a guy that can really chase people down when he gets there. I've said in the past, balls and pads and everything starts to get separated. He gets there with such violence. He didn't always, fit things exactly the way we'd like him to. We've got to work on some things. Coach Wilson will, but we know he's got a bright future, and he's going to continue to earn more reps.
The Ducks gave up nearly 300 yards passing to Fresno State, and obviously the challenge gets a whole lot bigger this weekend against the Buckeyes. So what did DeRuyter see going through the tape as to why his team had so much trouble stopping the pass last weekend?
Well, clearly it wasn't great. Couple reasons. We let the quarterback out of the pocket extend plays, which led to a couple long throws. We had a couple of busted coverages, which obviously hurts. We didn't line up in that second quarter to tempo as well as we should have. But they're all very fixable things. As we went through the tape yesterday and this morning, pointing out the details of where guys' eyes should be, where they should be fitting on. In that first game, sometimes guys playing for the first time, they're so caught up in the moment that they're not, thinking through their progression. So we've got to get guys more comfortable in the system and clean all that up, because obviously the talent's going up, way up this week, and they're a team that's really capable of a ton of explosive plays.
One of the reasons this weekend is going to be a big challenge for the Ducks secondary is the unique challenge of having to deal with not one, but 2 potential first-round picks in next year's NFL draft, who both play wide receiver, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, both being on the field together. DeRuyter has been a defensive coordinator for a long time, but he said he couldn't really think of a time when he's had to face a challenge quite like this one.
I was going to say, I don't know that, I've had to face 2 first-round picks. A lot of times you may see a special guy and you can design coverages around trying to double him, but when you got two guys, the talent that they have, it's really, really difficult. And so, obviously we got to, present different looks. We've got to, pressure the quarterback, try to give him different looks. But the biggest key that I think that they, do a great job with is their play action game, where they get the running game going. And if you don't have enough to stop that, you got to keep adding more guys, and that's where they get their really explosive plays. So presents a huge challenge, and our guys are going to have to be, on point this week with their eyes, the physicality at the line, so we can't let things break, so that we can play on the back end and try to contain these guys.
One of the big challenges for Oregon this weekend is that they know they're not going to be able to just play dime the whole game. They're going to have linebackers on the field, which means they're going to have linebackers in pass coverage. And those guys at times looked a little lost against Fresno State. DeRuyter made that sound like that was a little bit of a concern. Yeah,
it's something that we've got to continue to work on. I think overall they knew where to fit, but at times they got lost. And you got to give Fresno State credit. They give you a lot of different concepts to process, and they got a veteran quarterback and veteran receivers that have really good talent. So it's something that was a great test for us. We didn't always fit things the best way, and it's something we've got to work on. So it's something that we are aware of, obviously, and we'll just continue to work on.
Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this very special bonus episode of the Morning Scoop. We will probably not be an old-timey newspaper and have a morning edition and an afternoon edition all year long. But this week, with the Oregon game coming up and a whole lot of interest and a lot of stuff to talk about, this is at least the second one we've done this week. So we may have, we'll see if there's another one later on. But you're getting more than one show a day, which is not too bad. But as I said, I think at the top of the show, there's a lot to talk about and a lot of excitement around town right now. So that's all right. We are happy to, if there is stuff to talk about and you guys are happy to listen to it, we are happy to give you the shows you want. So thank you guys for watching this one and listening to this one. And do make sure you check out all the rest of our great podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify. Just put in Buckeye Scoop and you'll find all of our great shows, including Buckeye Weekly, which I did with Tony Gurneman, Around the Oval with Alex Gleitman, Gibbs in the Bank with Mark Gifler and Bill the Bank Green, Vegas Knows, Beyond the Shoe, Scoop World Order. We do a ton of shows. They are all fantastic. Sloopcast, Silver Bullets, they're all there. If you can't find a show that you like, you just don't like podcasts. So that'll do. Make sure you check those all out. Subscribe, leave us a rating or review, which will help folks find those shows as well. And finally, youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. Hit the subscribe button. And that way you'll get notified every time we post a new podcast, every time we post a new player and coach interview, every time we post a new pregame show, postgame show, you name it, it's all there. YouTube.com/Buckeye Scoop. All you have to do is subscribe and you get notified every time we post a new video, so you never miss a thing. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.